Hello, sir. I'm Shiva Raman. I'm from Mannarkudi in Tiruvallur district from Tamil Nadu, sir. And I've studied metallurgical engineering from Indian Institute of Technology, Roorkee. And post that, I've worked as an graduate engineer trainee in an steel industry, sir. Post that, I've been preparing for civil services examination.
Okay. How many times have you appeared for the civil service exam?
Technically 3 times, sir. But after serious preparation, it has been 2 times.
Last time you were not called for the interview.
No, sir. Last time I failed to clear mains examination, sir.
So this is the first time you are clearing the main and coming for the interview.
Yes, sir. Yes.
How many mock interviews have you attended?
This is my first mock interview, so because my interview is scheduled on May 18th, so there's considerable amount of time there.
Which are the other institutions where you are planning to get?
Mostly, I'm planning to visit Chennai, sir. At present, I'm based in Coimbatore. Actually, I gave a test series for anthropology in Vishnu IAS Academy, sir. And from Vishnu IAS Academy, sir, Hyderabad. It's an institute in Hyderabad, and they referred me to this institute, sir.
Vishnu Academy in Hyderabad referred you to this one.
Exactly. I guess it's a collaboration.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay.
Okay. Should I continue?
Yeah.
Should I take over?
Yes.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Shiva, you've done your engineering, but why did you decide to go in for the civil services? And you went to IIT Roorkee, which is a very famous IIT, one of the well-reputed ones.
Yes, ma'am. Actually, the aim was always to be in the services, but I felt that engineering would better it would better help me to perform well in the services, ma'am.
Okay, but studying metallurgical and material engineering, how is that going to help you in the civil service?
I'm not sure if the subject is directly going to help me in administration, but the amount of exposure and the way of thinking which the institute has provided me would help me in solving many of the problems with administration and implementing social justice policies, ma'am.
Okay, what are the qualities that you imbibe during the course of this study that you feel equip you better for the civil service?
So it's basically with thinking about a problem, ma'am. First, to use the modular approach to solve a problem. Instead of diving headfirst into the problem, you can just divide the problems into subparts, look into it, and finally go for an integration, which would create a sustainable solution, ma'am.
Right. Tell me more about this, your interest. You like swimming and you like skipping rope. And you said you read on the nature of consciousness. Tell us about this.
About the nature of consciousness, ma'am?
Yeah.
So, consciousness has been one of the most baffling topics for me, ma'am, because as you would have heard a philosopher, René Descartes, he said that I think, therefore I exist. So, it's only consciousness which allows us to experience everything, ma'am.
Okay.
So that piqued my interest in consciousness. So the basic definition of consciousness is our first person subjective experience. So if I see an object, it inculcates some electrical impulses in our brain. And how does those impulses turn out to be these objects, ma'am? So that's the nature of consciousness.
And what are the authors that you read?
So I started with reading about the spiritual aspects of consciousness, ma'am. And then I moved on to the...
Who's written on this subject?
Sir, ma'am?
I mean, I don't know anything about it. Tell me, who are the authors one should read?
Yes, ma'am. So
gets acquainted with this subject.
So if you have to explore the spiritual aspect of it, so I started with a very famous book called The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. And the fundamental question he asks in that book is, whatever we think, whatever see, whatever we observe, so who is observing it? So when we are thinking, we say that we are thinking, but who is here listening to us thinking now?
Okay.
So his idea is that our identity is basically with this ever-pervading consciousness, and we should not fix our identity with our mind and body.
Okay.
So that's one aspect of consciousness.
And
the similar thing has been explored in Advaita philosophy of medieval Hinduism also.
okay.
And after that, if you look into the neurobiology aspect of it, so it's termed as the hard problem of consciousness. So there are two schools of thoughts here. So one school of thought is the non-material aspect of consciousness. It is said that our mind, brain doesn't produce consciousness, and consciousness is something which is non-material and ever pervasive. But the recent approaches by neurobiologists, they say that consciousness is produced by human brain. But their view is that we haven't explored brain enough to understand how consciousness is created by the brain now.
Right. You say you use only a very small percentage of the capacity that we have in our brains. That is what the general
yes, ma'am.
feeling is.
One corollary can be that, ma'am, because still we haven't identified the specific regions in the brain which is responsible for consciousness.
Right. Okay, let's come down to a little more mundane things.
Sure.
Where have you lived most of your life? Which city?
So my dad has been in central government services now. So
Yeah, that I saw. Garrison engineering. Yeah.
yes, ma'am. So the maximum time I've spent in a place is a small district called Raigad in Maharashtra. So I did my primary schooling there in a
Mhm.
place called Duran. Post that, I've lived for 2 years in Kerala, then for 5 years in a place called Tanjore in Tamil Nadu, ma'am. And post that, I've lived for 4 years in Roorkee, Uttarakhand.
Okay, so different places.
Different places.
Which is the state you are really familiar with?
So I have to say Tamil Nadu, but even for that, I'm not very confident, ma'am.
5 years you spent there.
Yes, ma'am. And at present, I'm in Coimbatore with my parents. So
Okay.
yes,
Tell
ma'am.
us about Coimbatore then.
So yeah, I was basically born in Coimbatore. So Coimbatore is a municipal corporation in Tamil Nadu, ma'am. It's the second largest city after Chennai, and
Is it a smart city?
it has been included in the smart city program, ma'am, and works are in progress.
What are the components of a smart city?
One aspect of it is the area development program, where they isolate individual areas and try to develop it aesthetically and functionally. Apart from that, there are two other components which talk about retrofitting of old buildings and developing greenfield projects.
Anything else?
Apart from that,
Transport, water, solid waste management.
yes, ma'am, yeah. So the main aim is to use technology for every aspects of city administration, ma'am. Be it solid waste management or supply of electricity using smart meters or water supply using meters. Apart from that, there is a thing called transit-oriented development, where development is made in such a way that every person has access to some form of transportation to improve his mobility, as well as developments have been made for walking as well as traversing by bicycle to reduce pollution and congestion on roads.
Okay. What is Coimbatore famous for?
Pardon me, ma'am, can you please repeat it?
What is Coimbatore famous for?
Traditionally, Coimbatore is very famous for its mechanical grinders, ma'am, wet grinders. It has a geographical indication tag in wet grinding, ma'am.
Mhm.
Actually, idli and dosa are very famous staple diet for South Indian people, and they use wet grinders for grinding rice, ma'am. And most of the wet grinders are produced in Coimbatore, ma'am.
These are mechanical or?
Yes, ma'am. They are powered by electricity. They are mechanical, ma'am. They have a couple of moving parts here.
Okay, but the base is a stone.
Yes, ma'am. It is a stone, and Coimbatore is famous for that because the stone is called Oothukuli stone, ma'am, which is specifically found near Coimbatore. The specific properties of stone helps in proper grinding, ma'am.
What about the textile industry?
Yes, exactly. I'm very sorry I failed to mention that. It's called the Manchester of the South, Coimbatore.
Because I know that the saris from Coimbatore are famous.
Yes, ma'am. Especially cotton sarees.
Yeah.
So it's called the Manchester of the South due to
Yes.
immense amount of small enterprises which deal in weaving and spinning of yarns, ma'am.
So I presume the women there are usefully employed in most of these textile factories.
Yes, ma'am. The women employed in MSME sector, especially in textile sectors, are given a massive boost, ma'am.
And what is the literacy rate? Or do they go straight into work?
Sorry, ma'am, I'm not sure about that, but no, ma'am. I've got
Any idea about the health indicators? Since you've been living there for 5 years, I suggest you read up the district profile, get all the facts and figures
Sure. Yes, ma'am, I'll do that.
about education, about health, etc.
I have to look into
And
it.
what else would you like to tell us about Coimbatore?
Coimbatore is very close to Nilgiri Biosphere Reserve, ma'am, and it's close to Western Ghats, so it has a very favorable climate, unlike the eastern part of Tamil Nadu, which is burdened with high degree of temperature. Coimbatore has a relatively pleasant temperature and is known for its wildlife, ma'am, especially the Nilgiri areas, the elephants and
Wildlife? What wildlife do you have there?
the Nilgiri Reserve is famous for its elephants, ma'am, and the Nilgiri Thar. It's a special antelope which is found in southern part of India.
Sadhguru's ashram is in Coimbatore or nearby?
Yes, ma'am. It's in Coimbatore, ma'am. It's called Isha Yoga Center, and it's on the outskirts of Coimbatore.
Have you been there?
Yes, ma'am, a couple of times. Yeah.
Right. Tell me one thing. There are these various godmen in the country.
Mhm.
What do you feel about them? Why so many people flocking to them?
Fundamentally, I don't want to be critical, ma'am, but as Karl Marx said,
No,
religion.
I'm asking for your personal views. It's not
Yes, ma'am. Yes. I believe that fundamentally in every human being there's a search for meaning, ma'am, the meaning of life. And if someone comes up and gives some sort of a form to that meaning, then it's natural for people to flock towards such persons, ma'am. And that's the fundamental reason for proliferation of various godmen in our country.
But what about godmen, like so-called godmen, like say Asaram, about whom you hear a lot of negative things, and yet people flock to them?
It's about the subjective experiences of people, ma'am. Since I don't know anything about Asaram Babu, but people may have experienced something which made them so blind in their views that they are not able to see anything else in the public life, which has been done by such godmen.
Right.
So I can't completely blame those people, but they have to open their eyes to such atrocities committed by godmen.
Right. Okay, over to you, Vinita.
Okay, thank you. I would just suggest that you should read up the statistics, especially, there are major issues in Tamil Nadu about literacy rates. There are huge gender disparities. While the total rate is quite good, it's over 80 for males, it's 64 for women. So especially in rural areas, that is a major thing. The sex ratio.
That's
is
what I
also
asked
adverse.
you.
So you need to know that, because you may not, Coimbatore may be an oasis or Chennai, but Tamil Nadu, it's high on the sustainable development goals, but these shortcomings are there. So there's enormous scope for an administrator to set that right. In fact, there's huge inequality in wages. And also, there's only 5% women in your assembly. So there are many distinguished women. It doesn't translate into their getting into positions of power and authority. But let me come on out of Tamil Nadu and Coimbatore to the country as a whole. What are the key challenges that you feel are facing this country? Just name 3 and some policies or programs that government should have done to address these, either in terms of statements or budget allocations. Just 3 or 4. You don't have to go through there are many challenges, problems, challenges, call them whatever.
So the most fundamental
throughout the country. I mean, relevant for all states in the country.
sure.
Yeah.
So the most fundamental problem, which is very close to me, is the nutrition of children now. Especially when we see the statistics that 38% or more than 35% of our children are stunted, which is a very serious issue, and our hunger index is very low, which makes India come up along with Somalia and a few other countries now. So that's a major issue, and the government has come up with various policies to alleviate this issue, man. Mainly Poshan Abhiyan. Now there's a Poshan 2.0. Apart from that, there is an existing scheme of midday meals, and the universal immunization also helps in improving the nutritional outcomes of children now, due to
How?
improved health.
How?
So what happens is when a child or an infant is affected by some kind of disease or ailments, especially in his early childhood, the assimilation capacity of his elementary canal or the digestive system is hindered now. So if a healthy child, it's a cyclical approach actually.
Well, what about the ICDS scheme? Have you heard about that?
Yes, ma'am. ICDS scheme has been in place for a very long time now, since the Indira Gandhi period, I guess now.
So would you say it stems from poverty or eating habits or?
The malnutrition. So yes, ma'am, it has a multi-pronged aspect to it. So poverty is one serious aspect of it. Apart from that, there are also superstitions, ma'am, about breastfeeding habits in rural women. And yes, ma'am, these are the two aspects which come up to my mind.
And any other problems that you think face this country?
So other problem is the gender gap issue, ma'am, between men and women. So
Please give me statistics on this.
So
All India?
Yes, ma'am. So actually, I can go by the gender gap index published by.
No, you can go by any. Just give me 2 or 3 examples. What is the most striking and glaring thing? That one thing by which you know there is the gender disparity.
The most
one parameter.
The most striking thing I find is that 50% of women in our country are anemic now. Every one in two.
No, these are very general things. You know, you can't say 50% in the country. It varies from state to state.
Okay.
Wouldn't you say the adverse sex ratio itself is the most glaring example? Because that tells. I'm just giving you reasons also because I don't have time to. I mean, shortage of time. The mentoring I'll do. You know, adverse sex ratio in a country where men and women have equal access to finances and resources that a country has, then there should be more women than men. So, you know, this is a very major problem. And this actually, that one word, one statistic sums it all up. It means nutrition, they don't have access to equal nutrition, health, education, and resources. So, you know, an adverse sex ratio, and Tamil Nadu has an adverse sex ratio. I mean, there are districts which may not, but the Tamil Nadu as a whole, the sex ratio is 996 to 1,000 men. And in a place, even poor countries in Africa don't have an adverse sex ratio because they don't have that sort of gender discrimination that we do. So, you know, just remember that as a major cause. I mean, as a major, something which will sum up everything. Nutrition, access to health, access to education, access to opportunities, all those things are there. Move on to another one, which is throughout the country.
So apart from malnutrition, we can talk about.
So what are the programs the government is aware of it? So what are the acts and programs that government has done to address this?
At present, government has come up with an umbrella scheme called Mission Shakti, ma'am. So it includes both the protection of women, that it addresses the nutritional aspect as well as skill development in women, ma'am, so that they can be economically independent.
And what are there any acts?
For the protection of women, there are many acts, ma'am. Like Domestic Violence Act of 2005. Then there is CRPC Amendment Act of 2013. apart from that, the Hindu code bills in 1950s also helped in empowerment of women due to passing on of properties to women. So yeah, when it comes to the protection of women, there are a significant number of acts. Ma'am.
Is there an act to prevent sex determination tests?
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
So you
there is,
must mention this. Be
Sure.
very clear.
sure.
You know, you're just picking up here and there. Just be very clear. There are a lot of programs of education of the girl child, a number of SHGs that have been set up in your state actually address these very issues. I don't know the name in Tamil. It's like Kudumbashri in Kerala. It's very similar to that.
Sure.
Starts
I'll-
with M. I'm sorry, I'm not very familiar with them. So you do read up this. Would you not say that unemployment is a very major issue
Yes, ma'am.
throughout all states? Would you not put that first? I mean, everyone, you put education and all these things, but why, in spite of that, there's so much unemployment?
The fundamental aspect of it is the lack of skills, ma'am.
Yes, and
It starts with primary education. The functional aspects of education is not very strong in our country. Like the recent surveys conducted by NGOs, they put up that a student in fifth standard is not able to read that prose in a second standard textbook. So the foundational literacy has to be strengthened, and post that there has to be a skill development drive in our country, which has to be done in conjunction with the industries in our country. Ma'am.
any other way in which you can generate? Which are the other sectors which generate jobs? And what has the government done?
So government has provided a boost for
Service sector, manufacturing sector,
actually
MSMEs.
yes, ma'am. So service sector won't be very ideal for this, ma'am, because it's
Okay.
but when we look into labor intensive manufacturing sectors like
Mhm.
textile industry
Yeah.
or footwear industry, in those aspects we can create a lot of employment.
What about infrastructure?
Infrastructure, like improving in infrastructure would help in growth and which further would lead to job creation.
Yeah, so you have to think of all this, no?
Sure,
So
sure.
yeah, please, yeah. Any other problems that you can think of?
With respect to the countries, ma'am.
Yes, with the country as a whole, you're joining a all India service. You can be posted anywhere.
So
So you can't. Of course, there will always be local problems. Bihar cannot be Tamil Nadu. I mean, should you land up there, or Kerala can't be UP.
Mhm.
But so just look at it in a more countrywide way.
So the problem which is creating a menace to the entire country at present is the air pollution. ma'am.
Yes.
So it's said that Delhi is the most polluted capital in the whole wide world, and just 1% of the entire world population is breathing healthy air now. So something has to be done with respect to
What has to be done? Something has to be done is
yes,
what housewives say when they see air pollution.
yes,
What
ma'am.
are the causes of it?
Yes, ma'am. So the primary cause for air pollution in our country is fossil fuels, ma'am. Basically from power plants, then industries, then there is transports, and after that comes the construction industry. Ma'am. Apart from these things, there's the agriculture, of course. So broadly, there are these 5 aspects of pollution. Ma'am.
So how do you address any two? Say, just let's say vehicle pollution and industrial pollution.
Let's say if we come to vehicle pollution, ma'am, the first thing we have to do is improve the technology used in vehicles. Ma'am. Even if we are using fossil fuels, we have to make the vehicles run efficiently. And the recent scheme about vehicle scrappage policy would be useful for that, ma'am, because the older vehicles would be scrapped and the newer vehicles would be more efficient. Going beyond that, we have to get rid of fossil fuels, ma'am. So instead of petroleum, we can use electric vehicles. But before that, we have to bring in renewable energies, ma'am. We can't just depend on fossil fuels for creating energy, then using those energy for driving electric vehicles. So first thing, improving technology of vehicles, then generating resources for renewable energies, then transferring to electric vehicles.
So that will help with pollution and also stem the carbon and the bad gases, and that go up to create hazards of climate change.
Yes, ma'am.
What do you understand by biodiversity? in the context of climate change? What is biodiversity? And why do people say that renewable energy and preservation of biodiversity is very important? Or let's say, to put it more clearly, the preservation of forests, planting more trees, and preserving the oceans and the water bodies. Why is there so much emphasis on that
Biodiversity.
in the context of climate change?
Sure. So biodiversity refers to the equilibrium which nature intends, ma'am. There should be multiple species which have to be present in an equilibrium which is decided by the nature
Yes.
without human intervention, ma'am.
Yeah. So it includes all living life.
Exactly, ma'am.
From the
With
moss
respect
to
to
the
the
whale.
natural climate.
Yeah. So how do you preserve that?
So when it comes to forests and oceans, ma'am, the importance of these two systems is that they act as a buffer, ma'am. So
Buffer to what?
suppose if something goes up, so let's say forest fire by natural causes, it causes a local air pollution, but the forest in those regions would act as a buffer and reduce the pollution, ma'am, in a shorter period of time. So
I'm not clear what you're trying to say. In the context of climate change, why are these important? Both water, ocean, and forest.
in the aspect of
No, I also couldn't understand about the forest fire, how they would act as a buffer. Because forest fires are caused in forests, no?
they are caused in forest, ma'am, but in a longer term, say in a period of 1 or 2 years,
Uh-huh.
the natural regeneration would automatically compensate the pollution caused by fires. But when we come to forests and oceans in general, as we all know, forest acts as the lungs of our earth, ma'am. The Amazon.
So they act as sequesters of carbon.
Carbon
Exactly.
sequestration.
Dioxide, right?
The word is carbon
That's the
sequestration.
term.
That
Yes.
is the main reason. Okay, all the best to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for that.
Okay, Mr. Shivaraman, this is, you talked about the power of now. Have you actually read Daniel Kahneman's Thinking Fast and Slow?
It's a very voluminous book, sir. I've started it, but I was not able to finish it, sir.
What are in a sense, they both talk about, slowing down, basically slowing down, thinking of now.
Yes.
Now, what is the theme of that thinking? When you think fast, isn't there an I noticed that you in a sense, it's almost what Eckhart Tolle said is really now concentrating on slowing down, think now and not letting the future. But if you constantly think, if you start thinking, you'll find that when you slow your thinking, does your instinct actually then become your instinctive reactions then become less and less important? Does it? I mean, isn't there a certain something to instinct and something to naturalness?
Yes, sir. Actually, instinct is important, sir, but that the weightage of instincts is more when there is a situation which is immediate, sir. When something's there which harms your life. If you're in front of a car, then your instincts kicks in and you react according to that. But
so it's only the adrenaline that's important, nothing else in terms of instinct.
Yes, sir. Instincts in case of general life, sir, in our day-to-day life, the instincts is important, but the development of those instincts, sir, the logical instincts can only be developed after constant practice of being in the now and thinking about issues, sir.
So then what you're saying is you're actually, in a sense, advocating a cold-blooded approach to life. Would you say that?
No, sir, it's not exactly cold-blooded approach, sir, because in the book called Thinking Fast and Slow, he talks about two systems of thought.
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
One is the fast and one is slow. And in the specific book, he mentions that the faster way of thinking inhibits our logic, sir.
And often leads to wrong action.
Wrong action, exactly.
Yeah. But that's not necessarily always true, isn't it?
Sir, the
Anyway.
right.
Okay, let's go into another totally different thing, and that is if you look in terms of the broader aspects of democracy, the evolution of democracy in India, I want you to reflect on the relative importance of leadership qualities, personal leadership qualities, and charisma on the one hand, and the growth of institutions on the other. What are the relative and how do you see that in terms of at least two leaders in modern India, let's say Jawaharlal Nehru and say your latest leader today? How do you see the the distinctions?
Distinctions which is with respect to performance in a democratic system.
Not so much performance in terms of what is more important in the evolution of a democracy like India's? Institutions or, strong personalities?
Sir, India is at present, I don't think India is a very mature democracy, sir, unlike, say, a Britain. So at present, when we have a strong leader who command the charisma of public, they can act as a central figure in building up the institutions, sir.
Yeah, but very often that actually goes contrary. Most of it's the personal charisma actually leads to the failure of instruction and the breakdown of institutions.
That's right.
Yes, sir. Yeah. So that issue can only be addressed when we develop critical thinking among the people with regular, proper educational schemes and stuff.
Yeah, but which do you think are the main institutions of our democracy that have survived despite all the important and in a sense which a person like Jawaharlal Nehru may have helped to build today in India?
Not just Jawaharlal Nehru, sir. The whole Constituent Assembly.
Okay.
They created 4 bulwarks of our democracy, sir.
Okay.
They are the Election Commission of India, the Supreme Court, the Union Public Service Commission, and the CAG, sir, Comptroller and Auditor General, sir.
Okay.
And at present, we have seen reports here and there about the minor failures of these institutions, but they are not anything drastic, sir, which can be improved with respect to good leaders within those institutions, sir.
Or if I were to tell you that the institution of secularism, it's not the ideology, it's basically a kind of concept, but it's still also it has been institutionalized in India. That has been one of the most important determining characteristics of Indian democracy, and that today it's under threat. How will you react?
Secularism.
You won't ask this question.
No, I'm not sorry.
Anything
But I'm just asking. No, because you're so articulate, you must react.
Yes, I think it's a young person should actually debate it in his own mind, even if it's not asked.
Ma'am, the protection of secularism in our country is only possible when people are educated and they think about the country in general and the ideas which the Constitution holds.
Okay. But do you think that's happening? That it is so, as you said, has democracy in India evolved to that extent?
What I've observed from living in cities, basically Delhi or Chennai, is that most of the people are easygoing, irrespective of the religions. But whenever I read about the news items, the cases of lynching or attacking specific occupations, so that basically happens primarily in small villages and areas, sir, which are steeped into religiousness.
Okay. No, you get the point. Now, I noticed that there was an implication in your earlier statement that we are not so developed as a democracy and the Western democracy. Is really democracy a Western idea?
The democracy in our current form, sir, if we just look into the parliamentary system and all, it has come from England, sir. But if we look into the ancient India, there has been a system of democracy. Like in the Chola period, there was a system called variants where people come together. But even that democracy was kind of a pseudo-democracy, sir. Because
sorry, go ahead.
We had republics.
Sorry, we had republics too. But anyway, go ahead. Yeah.
Yes, sir. So the democracy in our current form is from the West, but we have a culture of democracy from our ancient India, sir.
Couldn't you say that the very the Vedic idea of neti approach to truth itself is in fact the highest indication that nobody knows the truth? So unless you get to to discuss it and be what you call an argumentative Indian, you can't really reach, and that itself is the highest indication that Indian culture in a sense is naturally disposed to a democracy. Would you say that? Or would you say that Indian culture over the years, they are more direct, they are more actually towards autocracy?
Yes, sir. The concept of neti in Advaita philosophy, sir, it leads to kind of democracy, sir. But the question here is like, how many people are aware of such a philosophy? Okay. So unless that happens, the Indian culture of democracy cannot be upheld, sir. Okay,
very good. I like the last answer because that's between the mass and the elite. In that sense, it is true. the elite can be democratic in an intellectual sense, but it's the masses that really determine the content of democracy. Fine, very good. Now, let me go back to an international global perspective, and that is, would you say that the recent developments in Ukraine has actually spelt the death knell of multilateralism?
Yes, sir. Actually, the very failure of United States Security Council to
United Nations, okay.
United Nations and UNSC, sir, to
Yeah.
stop Russia from its aggressive action can be seen as a failure in multilateral institutions. Sir.
Yes, but do you think that therefore that the UN has actually proved to be useless?
When we look at this issue specifically, sir, it has proved to be useless. But when it comes to other issues, like generating consensus for climate change and all, it has been useful, sir. But looking at this issue, there is a serious need for reforms within the United Nations and UNSC.
Okay, and would you say that the events of Ukraine are actually have the potential to completely change the world, or would you say that it's basically a European problem?
The implications or the spillovers of the war would actually affect the entire globe, sir. We can see the effects in our country itself.
Okay.
Yes, sir. So this issue has to be taken up, and this has to be used to strengthen multilateral institutions and bring in reforms in United Nations.
And do you think, therefore, the countries like India, China, and then possibly the middle powers in Asia would be even in a position to do that?
Reformation of the council. Are we talking about
generally change towards a greater emphasis on multilateralism?
This could bring about only when India, in our case, would rise in the stature of the global economy, sir. If India becomes the hub in global supply chain, its voices would increase, and which subsequently would lead to greater, say, reformation of multilateralism.
But that is in the medium or long term, and as Keynes says, in the long term, everybody is dead. So would you want more? Anyway, that's all right. Thank you very much. I think one final thing: who is your ideal in terms of public service? Historically, who would you classify as a role model, as a person who has influenced you in terms of public service or even spiritually? What would you say?
Spiritually, if I have to go about, then I would obviously choose Ramanujan, sir, the 11th century saint, because of the sheer empathy he exudes, sir.
Okay.
And in public life, I'm deeply influenced by Mr. T.N. Seshan, the erstwhile election commissioner of India, because of his stronger stance for free and fair elections. Sir.
Okay, that's a very interesting combination. Thank you very much. I'll leave it now to Mr. Nair. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for the time.
Thank you.
Mr. Shiva Raman.
Good morning, sir.
You're sitting in Chennai, or where are you?
At present, I'm based in Sulur, sir, Air Force Station Sulur. Sulur, sir. It's in Coimbatore district.
Coimbatore.
Right. Okay. You spent a long time in Coimbatore.
No, sir, no. Actually, my dad has been transferred here in Air Force Station Sulur. So I've been living here for the past 1 year.
During the last 1 year, or after completion of your BE or BTech, you have been preparing for the exam, or you did a job?
For 1 year, I worked in the steel industry, sir. Worked in a steel industry, sir. Jindal Stainless Limited. After one year, I dropped out of job to prepare for the examination.
In terms of your preparation, what is your own assessment?
Yes, sir. When I compare my preparation with what I've seen with other toppers, sir, I actually fall short in terms of the hours I put into studying, sir, because of, say, procrastination or various distractions. So, yes, sir, that's the assessment of my preparation, sir.
But you have crossed the main hurdle, the written examination. I think the interview part of it is, to my mind, maybe less.
Actually, yes, sir. Actually, I'm talking about my last attempt, sir, when I failed to clear mains. So this time I have been able to rectify that a little bit, putting in more focused efforts for the examination, sir. In that respect, I've been able to clear the main exam.
You believe that your performance in the written exam was good? You will get a fairly high score?
I can compare my performance only with the last year, sir. And compared to that, there has been a significant improvement in my judgment, sir.
Very good, very good. Well, watching your response to the questions, to the discussion, I think you have come up very well. You have a very analytical bent of mind. You think for yourself, and you can articulate your views also very well. These are qualities, abilities which will stand you in good stead. There's no doubt about that. Well, from the purely practical, mundane point of view, of an administrator, and of course there are exceptions. Many of them have risen to very high levels of intellectual attainments other than the mundane tasks of administration. I think you could aspire to that kind of, a level of achievement in that part of your career. Now, tell me, if you are given a choice, what kind of jobs would you like? There are umpteen jobs in government, you know that. Whether it is at the district level, whether it is at the state level or at the government of India level. You have some idea of these kinds of jobs. The functioning of the government is divided into ministries. Ministries are responsible for various activities. The name of the ministries themselves suggests what would be the content largely of their assignment. Now, looking at it, you have defense, you have finance, you have security, you have social sector. I mean, in that also education, healthcare, water, sanitation, the whole gamut of human endeavor as it were. But what would be if you are given a choice after being a district magistrate or after being a district collector?
Yes, sir. So in the senior position, sir, I would like to be involved in the policy making with respect to nutrition of infants. Apart from that, skill developments and startup ecosystem of our country, sir. I would
That's
like
a
to
big
work in
Social sector.
choice. That's very good. I mean, because otherwise people think sometimes of this, sometimes of that. They will think in terms of opportunities to go abroad, to get scholarships, post-retirement, this kind of a thing. Normally influence people. But from your early days, if you are convinced that these are the areas in which you would like to work, I think that's a clear choice. That's a very clear choice. Now, logically following from that, what are the factors which influence you to this thinking that these are the areas where you would like to work?
when it comes to nutrition,
Yeah, go ahead.
sir, I believe that when the children are properly provided with nutrition, we provide them with an opportunity to excel in life, sir, be it sports or education. So it's kind of a most fundamental aspect, sir. If we look into that, then our country would be massively successful in almost every field, sir. Be it technological advancement or performance in Olympics, sir. So the inspiration for working on the nutrition of children is that, because if we work on that, everything else will fall into place. Apart from that, the startup ecosystem in our country is not very well developed, sir. If we look into that, the more MSME industries we create would lead to significant job creation and economic growth of our country. This is the short-term aspect of it. For a long term, we have to look into the future of our children with respect to proper nutrition and education.
Do you think, based on what you are seeing around, reading about government policies, etc., do you think that these sectors do get the priority and the importance that they deserve, in your view, or they are comparatively neglected, non-attractive?
Looking at the measures by this regime of government, sir, I can see significant steps being taken in this area, sir. Because we have seen that India has come up in the top 50 rankings of innovative index. And apart from that, though the state of nutrition is pretty poor, significant investments have been made to administer proper balanced diet to children, sir.
You think the current level of investment and importance given to health, nutrition, children's education, etc., they are good enough? Or still a lot of things are
Yes. So with respect to the current level of investments, if we compare it with European Union or say other developed countries, the GDP, percentage of GDP is 6% for education in those countries, sir. But we have failed to reach even 2.5%, sir. So we have to improve our investments in the fields of education and skill development, sir, as well as others. So the present status with respect to allocation of budget is not satisfactory, sir.
Okay, that's your assessment. I think many people would agree with that. But why is it that when everyone is agreeable, more or less agreeable, that these are the areas of importance and high level of allocation is required? Why is it that it is not taking place? What is the logic? What do you think of that?
I guess the primary reason is that there has been significant leakages when it comes to the implementation of policies, sir.
I see.
The corruption at lower levels of administration.
Well, that's another part. We are talking first about the allocation. Utilization of the allocation or non-utilization or misutilization, that's a different story. We first talk about the level of allocation, what they call the budgetary allocation. You said that it is comparatively low. Now, why is it that comparatively low level of investment or budgetary provision exists, is perpetuated? What are the reasons for that?
So the central issue I observe, which is a problem for India, is the excessive amounts of allocation for defense budgets, sir.
I beg your pardon?
For defense budgets, sir. If we compare it with European Union, because they have significantly less allocation for defense, which they are capable to utilize in other social development aspects, sir. But because of our geological situation, geopolitical aspects of it, because we have aggressive neighbors in both the north and the west, sir. Because
I appreciate that assessment of yours. Definitely, yes. Praised as we are, we have to, may not be catching up, but we have to set apart, a good portion of our revenue for defense and security related, expenditure, which otherwise would have gone into the social sectors. Now, in terms of resource mobilization, which is very difficult, our government would be happy to, to mop up resources. What do you think? Are we on the right track?
Yes, sir. There has been a few issues with respect to the tax base of our country, sir, because when we come to the direct taxes, only 2% of our populace pays the direct tax, sir.
Yes.
So we have to look into increasing the tax base when it comes to direct taxes. And apart from that, when it comes to corporate taxes, we have to, as much as possible, you have to reduce the tax evasion done by major companies, sir.
These are the two comments.
And apart from that, I feel that the agriculture is totally exempted from taxes, sir, the agriculture sector. But if we leave out the 85 to 90% of the small farmers, we can look into the remaining 10% of large farmers and include them within the tax base of our country, sir.
Do you think there is any substance in the recent allegations? People are talking about, excessive interest in furthering the corporate interest. You not only reduce their level of corporate taxation, but also government has gone out of its way, as they say, in the last 2 years in giving a bonanza to the corporate sector. Do you believe that?
So we have to balance the situation here, sir, because earlier the corporate rate was more than 30% or round about that, but now it's 22%. The logic of government was to boost the foreign direct investment within our country, which could further enhance the employment and growth in our country, sir.
That's theoretically that is very correct. Well, I mean, has that taken place as a result of the incentivization of the corporate sector? Has more and more investment within the country from the corporates, has it taken place?
To some extent, it has, sir, but we have to regulate that further because the investments coming into our country are primarily based on service sectors, sir, IT and IT-based services, and that generates wealth, but it doesn't generate proportionate employment. So, as much as possible, we should be looking for investments in labor-intensive manufacturing sectors.
That's right. But is that taking place?
No, sir. At present, not, sir. But with more and more Make in India campaign gets successful, that will happen.
Okay. I think you have a fairly good idea of practically every aspect of. Just one more thing. What is the basis of our governance? You know, our quality, our everything.
According to me, the basis of our government is around Gandhiji's talisman, sir. Centered around public people, sir.
You know, in terms of structures, in terms of institutions, not ideas.
Okay, sir. So, it's basically democracy, sir.
Yes.
So, the idea is that the power should be more and more decentralized and the local governance should be strengthened.
But we have a structure, a given structure within which all that we are talking about is taking place. What is that? Okay, don't you think that the Constitution of India is the basis of all what we are talking about, our democratic institutions, the functioning of those institutions, you know, including the IAS and the services and all that?
Yes, sir. Yeah. In that aspect, Constitution would be the foundation of our entire democracy.
I would suggest start from that, and then you look at various things, you know, the constitutional democracy that we have, and the fundamental principles, you know, on the base on which the constitution is built up, the model, and you talked about leadership, you talked about institutions, etc., etc. I think you have a very, very good grasp of all these aspects. And
Wish you all the best.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Best
All
of
the
luck.
best, Shiva.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
And will you say, I just make one suggestion that, you know, when you ask where you are from, say that because of your transferable job of your father, you've been traveling from place to place, but don't mention all those places. Just say, but I've spent the maximum time in Coimbatore. Otherwise, they might start asking you something about Raigad or something
Oh,
you may
sure.
not be familiar with. Okay? Just focus on one. Just a suggestion. Anyway,
Yeah.
all the very best. I'm sure you'll do well.
Not the right suggestion, because I was also looking at, you know, various places that you get into this. Okay, Vijay, what would be
Oh,
your
fine. Excellent. I think you're quite articulate. I think you'll make
Very,
a.
very-
Yeah, you'll do fine. Absolutely. See you on the list.
I thought that he would, he could pursue a line in philosophy or something, huh? Because he has got a bent of mind, you know, I mean.
Which is a good thing too. I mean, you should.
Very good, very good, very good. Okay,
Chalo. Okay, we'll say bye then.
That was
Okay.
reassuring, sir.
Take
Thank you
care.
so much for that.
wish you all the very best when you
Thank you,
face the
thank
board.
Hi.
We look forward to seeing you
All
on
the
the
best again.
so that you get back to
You can log off now.